Shalawam. I'm your brother Yahawah from the branch of GMS, South Carolina Midlands. And before we start off, all praise, honor, and glory belongs to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rawchaa, HaQadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone who teach and who rule well. And Shalawam unto you hopeful elect, scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. To you I say, Shalawam. We all suffered under the curses, being all of us as the nation of Israel, from our respective tribes, all right, both southern and northern kingdom, all right, southern kingdom being you so-called Negroes, all right, so-called African Americans, so-called Jamaican, so-called Haitians, all right, and the northern kingdom being you so-called Hispanics, all right, so-called Native Americans, all right, up to date. All right, we all collectively as a nation suffered under the curses. We all went under captivity, all right, under Esau Edom, the so-called white man, all right, and to this day are under captivity under Esau Edom and constantly face oppression, okay, hatred, all right, persecution from this devil, okay, because naturally, you know, when you read the scriptures, all right, we are natural born enemies, okay, and for prophecy's sake, okay, you know, us transgressing the laws of Yahawashi, you know, we've been given over into Sleazy E's hands, all right, as a punishment, okay, and we know that Yahawashi is about to bring it in to that punishment, all right, and have mercy on his people and deliver us, you know, starting with the hopeful elect of the house of Israel, okay. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50 and verse 33, KJV. Thus saith the Lord, Yahawashi of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. All right. Israel symbolizing the northern kingdom, so-called Hispanic, so-called Native Americans of today, you know, so-called Latinos of today. All right. And Judah symbolizing the southern kingdom, so-called Negroes, so-called Haitians, so-called Jamaicans. All right. From your respective tribes of the house of Israel. Okay. It says, and all that took them captives held them fast. And who is that? Esau Edom, the so-called white man. Okay. The modern day Pharaoh of today. All right. The ruler here in America, which is known as spiritual Egypt in Revelation 11 and 8, who the Lord, you know, set up in power, you know, giving the power of the earth unto, you know, the so-called white man. Job 9 and 24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, all right, which is this devil, Esau Edom, okay. And dealing with this devil having us under captivity, you know, there's no thought in Esau Edom's mind to let us walk away, you know, from this captivity scot-free. You know, this devil is not gonna have a change of heart, change of mind, and allow us to, you know, occupy and go back to the Holy Land, all right, our land, our inheritance, okay, and serve Yahawashi in peace. Okay, this devil has to be taken down. This devil has to be destroyed in order for us to go scot-free, in order for us to be sovereign as a people. Okay, we cannot coexist with Esau Edom. Okay, you know, this devil will always constantly have that hatred towards us and constantly, you know, seek to take our life, you know, because like I said, We are natural born enemies, going back to the time of the beginning of Jacob and Esau. Okay. Esau had that hatred in his heart, in his mind, because of the blessing, all right, that was bestowed upon Jacob, which is our forefather, Israel. Okay. And Esau with his blessing, which we've been blessed, the kingdom of heaven. Okay. Having dominion in the earth. All right. Having the other nations serve us. Okay. Ruling the whole entire planet earth in righteousness. Okay. New bodies. All right. Immortal bodies. Okay. All that's coming unto us. Okay. And Esau receiving his blessing, which is the sword. We brought that out in camp today. Okay. Genesis 27 and 39 through 40. His blessing being the fatness of the earth, all right, and the dew of heaven. And, the way that he would get or occupy the fatness of the earth, pretty much the best of the best, okay, conquer the earth is through his blessing of the sword, okay. And this devil has been using that blessing against his brother, Jacob, and he will continue to use it to keep Jacob in a low estate, to keep Jacob in captivity. All right, so Jeremiah 50 and 33, it says, and all that took them captives held them fast, which is Esau. They refused to let them go. Okay, so this devil is not going to, take off the hard bondage that he has upon us as a people. All right, even though it's not necessarily chains and shackles like, the early beginning of the child of slavery that we went under. All right, now it's more so contractual slaves. All right, indebted to this devil under these contracts, man. Subject to payments, as the scriptures say in the book of Baruch, chapter 3 and verse 8. Okay, and this devil always wants to keep us in that position of being continual servants unto him. Okay. This is Baruch 3 and 8. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse. Yeah, we're suffering under the curses. And to be subject to payments, you see? Subject to payments. Constantly got to pay taxes and constantly got to pay bills. Okay, and let you stop paying those taxes, whatever you own or so-called think you own, whether it be your car, land, or houses, so on and so forth, this devil will come and take it. And that shows you that you are under captivity. Okay. It says, according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from our Lord, Yahawashi, our power. Okay. And, this is the position that we're at. There's a reason why when you're born in the earth, you're given a social security card, all right, which is a number tied to you, showing that you are prisoner number so-and-so and such and such, okay, under who? Under Esau, Edom, okay, and like we read, this devil refuses to let us go, okay. We can't coexist with this devil. Every time we try to do something, without Sleazy E, all right, Tulsa, Oklahoma, okay, Black Wall Street, this devil, what does this devil do? Okay, did he allow us to build up our communities and businesses and to live, outside of his help? Okay, try to do our own thing? No. This devil, burned it down, man. Okay, burned out everything that we tried to establish outside of him. Okay, because this devil has us under captivity, man. All right, he has the rule over us all right now, all right, as being captives and slaves in his heaven. All right, this is Esau, Edom's heaven, and this is the Israelite man's hell. Man, woman, and child's hell. Okay, and Esau will constantly remind you that you are a slave, man. No matter if you you sell out to him, okay? All these different sellouts within the house of Israel, so they can get some money, some FRNs, okay? You know, get a couple of benefits, get ahead, all right, in life within Esau Edom's queendom. This devil always reminds you that you are a slave if you get out of line. Okay, you speak up against, him. You bring out some information on him. This devil will blackball you, man. Okay, hit your bank account, hit you where it hurts. All right, have you looking crazy out here. Okay, either locked up somewhere, lawsuits against you, losing different opportunities, job opportunities. All right, and hit your bank account. Okay, hey, that's Esau showing you and reminding you that you are a slave, man. Okay, subject to payments. Okay, which a lot of these sellouts will end up happening to them. They ended up owing to the IRS. Okay, his taxes. All right, showing you that you're a slave. They end up going bankrupt, showing that you're a slave, man. Okay, and what is that? That's us being subject to payments, man. All right, exactly how the scripture said. All right, suffering under the curses. Okay. All right, so let me read that over again. Baruch 3:8. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us. And who is the us? Hey, us is Israel. All of Israel. 12 tribes. Okay. From Judah on down to Issachar. Okay. And it says, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, to be subject to payments, according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord, Yahawashi, our power. Hear Israel. You see, the Lord is addressing his people. Hear Israel, the commandments of life, which is these instructions of the Holy Scriptures. Okay, this is what we should be hearkening unto, reading, taking heed, all right, applying, all right. They're the commandments of life. All right, it says, give ear to understand wisdom. All right, and we know that this devil, under his rulership, he forms wickedness and lies, death. Okay, everything adverse to the commandments of life, the instructions of Yahawashi. And that's why we tell Israel to repent, which is to turn back to Yahawashi, because only Yahawashi can get us out of this predicament, all right, that we are under. Okay, when we read in the book of Deuteronomy, getting into the curses, which we all suffered, all right, from these curses, all right, collectively as a nation, Deuteronomy 28:68. And the Lord, Yahawashi, shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. And what is that Egypt? That's spiritual Egypt, America, Babylon the Great. All right, on cargo slave ships. Okay. And when you get into the history, we know that predominantly Southern Kingdom, so-called Negroes, Jamaicans, Haitians, was taken over here from the west coast of Africa. Okay. Where we were residing at. Okay, a lot of us were residing at, from the fleeing of the Roman persecution of 70 A.D. Okay, a lot of us went into the west coast of Africa, where Sleazy E, so-called white man, all right, and Ishmael, them Arabs, okay, and Also, Ham, had a hand in, rounding us up and us being sold, all right, put on those cargo slave ships and brought over here to America, Babylon the Great, all right, spiritual Egypt, to serve slavery, okay? And we know that when you get into even deeper into the history, the Northern Kingdom, all right, when you get into the history of Second Esdras, the 13th chapter, they were already over here, okay? I'm going to get a little bit into that. Second Esdras 13, I think around about the 40th verse. I'll start at 39. It says, "And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanaser, the king of Assyria, led away captive." Yeah, we were, Northern Kingdom was under the Assyrian captivity. Okay. And it says, and Southern Kingdom, we were suffering under the Babylonian captivity. It says, "And he carried them over the waters, so came they into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country, which never mankind dwelt." All right, and what did Esau Edom call this place over here in America? All right, the New World. Okay, and it says that they might, that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. All right, so they decided to come over here to the Americas, all right, to try to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments, which we know that, Northern Kingdom was going off when they was over here. And it says, "And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river, for the Most High, Yahawashi, then shewed signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, in the same region is called Ashereth." Okay, and I want to get the definition of that word, Ashereth. Just bear with me. I'm at Ashereth. All right, Salakia. Pronounce that correctly. All right. Ashereth meaning. It says Ashereth meaning means, here in the Google definition, another land, the land beyond. Okay, and what is that? Another land, or the land beyond, or as the scriptures describe it, the uttermost parts of the earth. It's the Americas. Okay, this is where the Northern Kingdom were already here. It was already occupied when Esau came over here, okay, by the Northern Kingdom. And we just read the history so that they can come over here and keep the laws that they didn't keep, all right, back in the Holy Land, okay. And we know that when they were over here, they were going off, okay. They kept some laws, all right, but they were going off, man, okay. And for prophecy, all right, and for disobedience, for prophecy's sake, okay, Sleazy E came over here, rape, robbing, and pillaging, okay. And Northern Kingdom did go into captivity as well, okay. You had the Spanish, the French, okay, the Dutch, all right, the English, them conquistadors, all right, come over here, all right. And what did they do to Gad? All right. They raped, robbed, and pillaged. Okay. We know that they set up a lot of treaties. All right. In order so that they can deceive and take the land. All right. From from the so-called Native Americans. Okay. Which you see here today. They stole every damn thing, man. Okay. Stole everything from Gad, Reuben, all right, the tribes, okay, the Americas, man. All of this was stolen, and he shed the blood of our brothers, man. Okay, some Israelites don't teach that the Southern Kingdom the Northern Kingdom, the so-called Spanish, so-called Native Americans, so-called Latinos is a part of Israel. Israel just all black. No, them are our brothers, man. Okay, and we reading the history on that, man. Okay, this land was not discovered. This land was colonized, taken. All right. And when I was bringing up the treaties, man, okay, dealing with this devil, Esau, Edom. Let's go to the book of Psalms real quick, man. Okay. We were told in Sirach 12:10 to never trust thy enemy. Just as iron rusts, so is his wickedness. He was always, going to be wicked. He never had the intent to have a fair shake, okay, with us as a people, all right? And that's both Southern and Northern Kingdom, okay? This devil constantly had the thought of war in his heart, man. And we're going to read it. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 55, and verse 21. It says, verse 20, it says, he hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. Right. What did Christopher Columbus describe in his memoirs? All right. The Northern Kingdom being a peaceable people. Okay. And this devil put the sword to him. Okay. This all this devil knows, man. To shed blood. To do wickedness. Okay. He put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. Because what were we teaching him? We was teaching him how to cultivate the land. How to live. Okay. This devil didn't have, the understanding of how to cultivate and live, over here in the shores of America, because a lot of these devils was dying off. But, the knowledge that was given from that peaceable people, Israel, Northern Kingdom, that were already over here, they showed the devil how to live over here, man. Okay. How to, grow crops. Okay. How to live properly over here. And it says, he have broken his covenant. All right. All those different treaties, man. Okay. He'll promise Gad, all right, this is your land. Okay. You can have this portion. All right. We'll stay over here. All right. And what does the devil do? All right. Constantly took more and more land until he took the whole continent. All right. And it says, verse 21, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. And the words his words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. So it's always in the back of this devil's mind to stab Gad in the back, to stab the Northern Kingdom in the back, man. Okay. It was always to take the land and take them into slavery. Okay. To shed blood. Because that's all this devil knows. He lives by the sword. By thy sword shalt thou live, man. Going into his blessing. All right. And I got a book that I picked up called The First South Carolinians. All right. I'm going to get an excerpt from this book. And it says, how do we know about native South Carolinians? Most of what we know about how the early people of South Carolina live comes from the Europeans, being Esau, okay? Excuse me. Who first made contact with them more than 500 years, all right, ago, okay? Which, if I'm not mistaken on this history, let me see, when did Christopher Colombo, all right, that devil, when did he first arrive, all right? Let's see here. And they got, look, that's the devil, man. Talking about when Christopher Columbus discovered America. No, nigga. It was already people here. It was already inhabited. The Northern Kingdom. He took it. Colonized it. That's what it should say. But it says Christopher Columbus reached the Americas on October the 12th, 1492. Okay, so yeah. All right, a little over 500 years ago, man. Okay. And reading on within this book, the first South Carolinians, all right, Northern Kingdom, all right, Gad, it says, this is the period of first contact when the European explorers, Esau, Edom, the devil, did in fact treat the early Native Americans very badly. And that's putting it lightly, man. That is putting it very lightly. Okay. You know, this devil came over here, drew the sword, all right. Used disease warfare with the smallpox within the blankets. Okay, try to kill off the buffaloes so they can starve out. Starve out the foods. Kill off the food supply so he can starve out. All right, Gad. All right, our brothers over here. Okay, and also, establish those treaties as if he's, a fair or just man, and break them all. Okay, so him treating the Native Americans or Gad very badly, it was putting it lightly, man. Along with all the tribes, putting it very, very lightly. Okay, it says they provided a written account of customs, living habits, and general appearance of the people they found. And it goes in, describing Jake over here. Okay, even described them as not having beards, because they came over here to keep the laws, but they was going off. Okay, but nonetheless, okay, this devil, man, all right, he got a lot to pay for, man. All right, he had touched the apple of the Lord's eye, the Lord's people. Okay, so the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart, in his mind. The Hebrew word lab. His words were softer than oil, and yet were they drawn swords. So you can't trust nothing this devil says. Okay, the end result of what, in the back of his mind is blood. Okay, he wants to take. He wants to get what he wants. All right, the devil comes not but to kill, to steal, and to destroy. Okay, and that's been this devil Esau Edom's whole MO, as he's been, going throughout the earth, conquering, pillaging, all right, rape, robbing, and murdering, all right, especially Israel. Ezekiel 35:5, because thou hast had a perpetual or everlasting hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans of today, so-called Hispanics. It says, by the force of the sword, which that's his blessing, in the time of their calamity, which we, when we went into captivity, suffering under the curses, in the time that their iniquity had an end. But we know that Yahawashi, he wasn't going to be angry with us forever. Okay, but guess what this devil did? He forwarded the affliction. Okay, it says, therefore, as I live, said the Lord God, Yahawashi, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee, since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. So the Lord got a very heavy slaughter for this devil Esau Edom. Okay, you know, the Lord is going to destroy Babylon the Great, America, by way of fire. You know, it was established on blood. It's going to go out by way of blood. Okay, destruction. All right, this is Isaiah chapter 34 and verse 5. It says, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea, which is the Greek word to say the word Edom. Okay, what is the Lord's sword that's going to be bathed in heaven? Those ICBMs, or intercontinental ballistic missiles. And it says, and upon the people of my curse to judgment, which is you Edomites, all right, the wicked. Okay, it says, the sword of the Lord, Yahawashi, is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness. And did not we just read that the Lord preparing Esau Edom unto blood? Okay, it says, the sword of the Lord, Yahawashi, is filled with blood, and is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of the lambs and goats, and the fat of kidneys of rams. For the Lord Yahawashi hath a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. So this is synonymous with the people. Okay, these damn Edomites are primary enemy. Okay, the Lord's gonna have a sacrifice. He's gonna, burn this place up, man. Okay, along with the rest of the heathen nations over here in Babylon the Great, 2/3 of the house of Israel, who's not gonna make it up on the chariot. All right, but the elect will. Okay, he's gonna have a sacrifice in Basra. What's Basra? The capital city of Edom. All right, which is America, man. Okay, America is spiritually Basra. All right, where the Lord is going to have a great slaughter here. Okay, over 300 million. All right, people over here in America, Babylon the Great. All right, what, like 330, 340 million. Okay, the Lord is about to burn a lot of people up, but he's going to deliver his remnant, his elect out of here, of the house of Israel. Okay, well, this is what it's coming down to, man. All right, for all of what this devil has done to us as a people, man. All right, it says, and the unicorns shall come down with them, and the bullocks and the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness. For it is the day of the Lord Yahawashi vengeance, the Lord's payback, and the year of recompense for the controversy of Zion. So the Lord is bringing all this heavy judgment by way of World War III, all right, by the instrument of the nuclear missiles that will touch down, the nuclear warheads that will touch down over here in the shores of Babylon the Great, America, all right, for what happened to his people, man. Okay, this is the Lord's payback. Okay, he's going to deliver his elect, all right, and bring total destruction to America, Babylon the Great, spiritual Basra, spiritual Babylon, spiritual Egypt, spiritual Sodom. All right, if you don't get it, that America is these wicked kingdoms, all right, coming back, reincarnation, Rome 2.0, okay, the revival of Rome, okay, then, hey, the Lord ain't dealing with you, man, okay, but these devils got a lot to pay for, and they about to pay for it very soon, man, okay, we all went under captivity collectively under this devil Esau Edom, all right, and, a remnant, all right, of the house of Israel, the elect, okay, small cluster out of the amount of people, of our people that's going to be destroyed, 2/3, all right, the 1/3 is about to be delivered up out of here, okay, the house of David, all right, which consists of all 12 tribes, all right, a remnant out of all 12 tribes of the house of Israel is about to be delivered and beamed up onto the chariot to be forever with the Lord. All right, and Esau, Edom, heathens, 2/3 that's left over here in America is about to be burned and destroyed. All right, and we'll see the 2/3, okay, back in the kingdom in the reincarnation. Okay, we'll see the heathens in the reincarnation being servants and handmaids to us in the kingdom of heaven that will be established here in the planet Earth. And after 1,000 years of hardcore slavery, all right, the only difference between the heathens serving us, all right, after 1,000 years, Esau, Edom, okay, the house of Edom, all right, will be eradicated, all right, according to Obadiah 1 and 18. All right, so Lord wills edifying through the Spirit and through the power of Yahawah and to you, hopeful elect. Okay, matter of fact, I'm going to read Obadiah 1 and 18 and then close it out. Okay, this is the book of Obadiah, one chapter, one book addressed to Edom. Obadiah 1 and 10, it says, "For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee." And this devil is being exposed, all this history, all right, the shameful spewing that's on his glory, all of it is coming out, okay? "And thou shalt be cut off forever." Verse 18, the point, "And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame." House of Jacob being the southern kingdom, house of Joseph, northern kingdom, all right, the house of David, okay, the whole house of Israel, "and the house of Esau for stubble," okay, because this devil is about to be devoured, destroyed, consumed, all right, "and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and they shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord Yahawashi has spoken it." So future prophecy, after they served their judgment of hardcore bondage unto us, all right, Revelation 13, 9 through 10, "He that hath the ear, let him hear what the Spirit, all right, saith unto the churches." Okay, let me read that. All right, after he served his captivity, he will be eradicated according to Obadiah 1 and 18, as we just read. No more remaining of the house of Esau. Why? Because the Lord has spoken it. This is Revelation 13 and 9. And I quoted that wrong. All right, Revelation 13, 9. "If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity." Esau, Edom, he led us as a people into captivity. And he got to, feel the curses. All right, he got to be captives under us. All right, "And he that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword." Hey, he put his blessing of the sword to us. So we're going to get our payback, and the Lord going to allow us to do so. Okay? "Thus saith the Bible, thus saith the Lord." It says, "Here is the patience and the faith of the saints." The saints are the Israelites. And this is what we are waiting on, for the tables to turn, for the Lord to put us in a position of power to where we'll have, payback on this devil. But first, the vengeance is of the Lord, so we wait on the Lord. Lord, what is edifying through the Spirit and the power of Yahawah and to you, hopeful elect. Let us say Shalawam, Shalawam to the hopeful elect.